Still this morning a little bit cloudy, but still it's good. Try to remember what we have learned together about worship, right? How we plan and we kind of explored this worship, planning, worship, and leading for this class and basic, from basic kind of issues and theological foundation, and then we went over a lot of stuff, right? Last week, how can we build our music, like that. And today and next week is really a little bit more practical. I think, I cannot go deep because of the lot of required musicality and the skills, but I'm not an expert on music. I like music, but still I don't like it. No, I'm not expert, right? So anyway, we're gonna talk about basic rehearsal, how can we tune to get together and stuff, and then what is the danger for the worship leaders? And that's left over 2 classes that we left, right? So today we're gonna talk about worship team and rehearsal. And regardless of the size of the church, when you go to church, and there is a worship team, right? Sometimes one person just come out and there's organist there, and not a team, but they leading the worship like in the small church. Maybe 2-3 people and leading, and one is leading, playing a guitar, and who is leading the team worship, and then maybe one or two is kind of singers, and maybe the piano is there, and that's a typical small church worship team. But if you go to like a mega church, like there is over 100, and then there's a team, a praise team, especially whether they stick on the traditional or whether they follow the. If you go to church has a traditional service, and then I guess there's not much worship team, but there is a choir there, and then there is a hymn is there, but someone should preside the whole worship, right? And not a team, but still nowadays a lot of churches adopted contemporary worship style, so there is a worship team. And if you go to like a 30, 40 people, 30 to 50 people church, and who can stay there? Sometimes they are not like expert, not musician, but still really talented, and they have experience, and they kind of made a worship team and lead the worship, right? And do you think the worship team is necessary? What do you think? Maybe if you like a contemporary worship style, definitely we need it. But if you like a traditional worship, and I don't think so. We don't need a worship team, but still we need a choir, right? But most churches, I don't know how many churches stick on the traditional service. I already told you about my younger daughter's experience, right? She went to her friends, she went to church that her friends dad is kind of doing ministry. That's typical Presbyterian church, and no clapping, and all songs are based on the hymns, and there is only organist and choirs there, right? But nowadays, when you see the church that you are attending, I don't know how many of you guys attending the traditional church, and you can see that how worships are really stylistic, right? And worship team is there, and instrument is there, and then just think about how the church weighed on the worship team for the worship. So if you think about the stylistic with the worship styles, and there is a kind of authenticity there we need, right? Who had a really musical kind of leadership and musicality and could lead the worship, yeah? And that is, but it's not just traditional, but it's really stylistic, right? That's why we may think that there is, we need a worship team. And a little bit different from the traditional service, right? And what about another agile leadership, and then worship team is kind of effectively guide the congregation in the world. There is a lot of syncopations nowadays, and variation of form that part of praise and worship styles, right? But if you are not expert, you are not that good at music, and then it's hard to follow. But worship leaders kind of leads, and the congregations follows, right? So when you see the worship style nowadays at churches, and we can see that we need someone who really have a musical talent and leadership, right? That's why another reason. And sometimes think about nowadays the church's tendency and trend. So churches really higher rate of some really introductions in the church worship service, and then it's hard to follow, hard to do that, but worship team can give the clear guidance of the congregation needs, right? And that's why I think that's misspelling. I try to check out always, some, and that's why. And if someone is trained and talented, and there's a musical sense, and someone is really musician, and then lead the worship, and it's really easy to, not easy to really make the worship effective, and then their heart is touched by the music, and they kind of they can pray why they praise God, and there is a communication why they praise, right? That's why, and nowadays if you stick on the hymn traditional in worship style, maybe there's no syncopation much, and then it's easy. But nowadays the beat is getting harder, and then a lot of syncopations, and then it's not easy, right? And that's why there is a leadership we need. And then another is kind of think about the essential kind of accompaniment, and then another one is that the worship teams play the essential musical role of rhythmic, and then choral accompaniment. They play together. Sometimes they make it sound really nice, and then it really touches people's heart, right? And that is a kind of worship. Without worship team, and it's hard, but with the worship team, and sing together and play together and lead worship, and then it much kind of make worship kind of effective, and then really kind of open people's heart with the music. And there is, that's why stylistic authenticity, and then agile leadership, and then also kind of an essential accompaniment kind of with together, right? And worship need, and then maybe there's other reason, but still, basically, I think, yeah, maybe basically we understand why we need worship team, right? And I grew up with the traditional worship style, and then when I was a student, maybe we played the guitar, but I grew up in a really countryside, rural area, and then not many playing guitar, and we just one guitar is there, but still there's one organ, and then later on, when I was in high school, we had a piano, right? And usually someone coming up and lead kind of hymns, and we there's no any other instrument, and then there was a worship leader say, okay, can you let's just sing hymn page, what page, and then we sing and what page, and like this. That was kind of before the worship and during the worship, and not many kind of instrument, and then rhythmic and melody, right? But nowadays, kind of worship style is changes, and then maybe I don't know how many people can stick on the traditional style, even though they are Presbyterians, and still why they worship, and then usually praise team is here, right? Praise team coming out, and then a little bit mixed blending, but they lead the worship, right? And we think that worship team is needed. Depends on the worship styles, and then how can we select worship team members? How can we select worship team members? And usually, first of all, they see that there was they have a musical talent. They sing well or not. That's the first one. And they can play keyboard, they can play guitar, how well. That's one of and usually they have auditions. So, I want to be a singer for worship team, and then they test it, right? Audition is there. I want to play guitar, and I want to play piano, and then you need to get auditions, right? And my daughter, she stayed after college, she stayed for a while, and I recommended her to join the worship while you stay home. And the worship pastor called her, and then, let's have the audition. So she plays the guitar, and she plays the violin, and pretty much she has musically talented, and she made the music. and one day, okay, and then can you come and play the piano? And then she played the piano, okay. Even she finished one song, you're passed. You could join the praise team like this. And then, but sometimes my friend's wife is my friend the pastor, and his wife is kind of she's a musician, studying composition and then playing the piano, and then once she was leading praise team at church, and then someone said, I had called to be praise team, and then I'm not part of the praise team. And then she's an old woman, and then without audition, and so she later joined the worship team, and then she couldn't keep it up with the worship team, and really sometimes really distracting the worship teams, her voice. And then she was struggling, and she fired her. What happened? That's one of the reasons that the pastor and her husband, and she is kind of resigned the church. And it's really funny though. It's really funny. Sometimes that's kind of a paradox at church, and by grace, whatever I want to do, I can do it, right? But the other side, and then especially even though you're not volunteer for serving certain position and what, and in certain position and what, you're not talented and you cannot, right? So one of really best leadership is that you consider who has kind of gift, what kind of gift has, and then you can assign the right person to the right place, right? But that's kind of happened, right? And then even though she had a desire to be a praise team, and then she wanted to sing together, but that's kind of worshiping God and serving God. But in terms of worship teams, qualification, she was not, right? And there is, depends on the church, and then, but I got the qualification from someone who posted up, and I'm looking for, and that one is kind of basically, their church practicing or kind of his own idea, right? Here is some qualifications for the worship teams, and then here is being an active Christian follower or believer. Active, meaning that willing to come to church and join our church activities, and then praise team is very important for worship, right? And then she's not active and she's not passive, even though someone is really in the worship team, and then what? You mean the passive meaning that sometimes make a lot of excuses not to come to praise team and practice. That's kind of happening. So we need to know that the worship team member should be born again Christian, someone who has really assurance of salvation, meaning that I confess Jesus Christ my Savior, and who died on the cross and forgave my sin. Right? That's a basic qualification though. And then someone is kind of really introvert, and then they cannot get along with many people, but maybe not extrovert, but still actively involved in church. Especially think about if someone is really joins the worship team, and then worship is not always behind the stage, right? Not one of the congregations, always in front and on the stage for worship, and then how can you deal with all things? Clear as a confession of faith, it's really important. So even though someone has a very musical talent, and then they don't believe God is a nominal Christian, it's not really good for the worship team, for the worship, right? We gotta know that this one, but a lot of times people just see that I don't know how much people check that their faith, and so we should check this one. Being a tither means that that's a Christian traditions, and then it's really needed for the church and the work of the God's work, and then that's a really commitment on the churches and on God and on churches, right? And skill with the instrument of voice. So usually though, when churches kind of worship leaders see that part really important. I know this is really important. My worship team is kind of struggling with my church worship team is kind of struggling with this one. And then I know they like singing, and they like coming up and wants to lead the worship, right? And sometimes kind of they're playing the instrument is not coordinated with each other, and sometimes harmonies like really distract me, not I don't know others, and then sometimes just think about they try to make a harmony, and then and also just a vocal leader is there, but also sometimes and alto and is kind of there is a soprano, and they try to make kind of harmony, but it's overpowered the lead vocal, and then sound is really weird. Right? Sometimes alto is sound voice is really low, and then sounds too loud and overpowered the lead vocal like this, and then I don't know, maybe they like singing, but sometimes they don't listen to others' voice, and they are not used to playing together. And there's a part of maybe you need to play the instrument, and sometimes I don't know the sound, but my kids are playing the violin, and then they know the whole sound. They know how keys are changing, and sometimes guitar players behind, and whether they play off beat, and sometimes they play the wrong chord, and my kids listens. I don't listen that detail, but I can see the kind of coordination, but yeah. So someone is think about someone is really musically talented, and someone is really have kind of worship with the songs, and then if you don't have skills and then musical skills in instrument or the voice, it's hard. You gotta see them, right? And think about the chorus, choir, and then I was in college, and then I wanted to join the choir, but I know that I didn't have any musical sense in singing and playing the instrument. I never played, but so I didn't even attempt to get in. But a lot of people, and they sing very well, but some of them is voice is really unique. They are denied from the choir, the school choir, because the voice is not harmonized with the other voice, even though sing very well and then it's really talented like this. We gotta see the whole teams, right? And what about the free from the addiction? They really try to pursue the life for holiness. Any addictions? Maybe alcohol and drug, and I'm not in charge of I was not in charge of use, but I was covering the youth ministry, and then I didn't know at the time, but kids, they think about the big band, the churches, and music band, and then I heard later when I resigned the church, and then people they go up to the stage and they took drug. So how dare? I didn't know. So we gotta be careful that part, and then being regular church attenders, not once a month like this, and then even though you cannot be even though you have a lot of talent, but you cannot commit and you cannot go to church regularly. Like I go to my church once a month, and then I go to other churches around for my ministry, and then shouldn't be a leader at church. And the church board asked me to serve one more term as a board member. So I served one term, and then they asked me, right? And then I know what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna miss a lot. I'm gonna miss the church a lot, and then I'm not even though maybe I could join the board meeting and once I come to church and no problem, but I cannot serve, right? So I prayed about it and then I told my pastor and then, okay, if you don't find anyone, but if church needs someone, I'm willing to do. And then mean that I'm gonna postpone my ministry and serve one more term at church, and then I'm moving forward for my ministry. And finally, my pastor said that's fair, and then as they found someone, and I don't have to join go back to the elder board, and then that was so we gotta know that, right? Mean that is basically need commitment and literally outgoing personality, right? Not because members is on the stage. Introvert is really hard, even though talented, and then it's really hard. Maybe so tied, and there was a regular 10 is a kind of requiring the commitment. They really committed, right? There's a basic qualification that I got, and maybe you can get more. Depends on the church culture and depends on your ethnic culture, right? But think about who can be a really be a praise team. Not just to sing that they're musical talent, but see that they're faith. And sometimes if they are not like really professional, not like really but still they are strong Christian and clearly have confession of faith, and then there is ability to develop and let them join. That's my opinion. Let them join. But you gotta see the potential, but if there is no, and then let them go, right? Maybe if you have a lot of whole band is in front of people, worship team, and then even though one is not there, and then we need it, but they are not ready, and then sometimes the leading the worship is kind of hard, right? And think about the value of the worship team, and depends on the church and depends on your culture, but here is some they post up and then passion for God. Worship is very important for Christian life. One of the important thing that is the purpose of life of human beings, enjoying God, right? And there's a really passion, there should be a passion for God, and then loyalty to God. Not too many kind of thought and distraction, and then humility and servanthood, and not gossiping. That is a really important thing. People get together, one of a group is like a choir, and then maybe I don't know how many groups, and usually 10, 20, 10, and then somebody's really gossiping about someone, and then teamwork is broken later, and then it's really hard. And constantly learning, even though maybe they are really talented, and sometimes, and it's different things coming out continuously, right? And then they willing to open their heart and with humility and learn and learn and learn. Punctuality. I think this is really important. And depends on their culture. Depends on the culture, right? And some culture is like, okay, let's meet at 10 o'clock, and then someone comes at like 10:30. 30 minutes, it's nothing. But think about it in terms of time I'm talking about. And then, so maybe there's a kind of a cultural codice and okay, we gotta wait 30 minutes. But think about worship team is get together and let's meet at 7 o'clock on Friday night for practice, and then what? Someone is like 7:30 showed up, and sometimes depends on what instrument he plays, what is the position, and then what? Kill the other's time, right? Punctuality is really important though, but if you go to collective society like Asian and Muslim countries, and then it's hard, right? It's hard. And accountability, so kind of take responsibility for each other's spiritual well-being and their spiritualities, and then accountability is really important. And assuming the best about each other, right? Yeah, that is a kind of basic values, and then but maybe you can add and you can replace. But think about as a team, usually as a kind of institute or organizations, and then institution, and then there is a values supposed to be there. What about church? Church mission statement there, and what's the vision statement? What's the core value of the church? Every church cannot be the same, right? And how you understand the praise team, and then here is the sure, and suggest that come pyramid, because the pyramid, and then because praise pyramid, and then help to understand the melodic and chordal and rhythmic structure of praise and worship. That's why. And here is the really basis, kind of a rhythm, drum and bass, and then that's providing stability of the melody. Melody is supposed to go, and then they lead the melody rhythm, right? That's why the drum and bass is very important and goes together. And what about next one is a chord and piano or guitar is like, this instrument is kind of provide a harmonic setting for the melody, and sometimes they can decorate, and then they support, and then really that is a provide the basic rhythmic structures there. And then another is the voice, so who leads the praise team with the voice, right? Voice there, and then there's a wind and string and harmony. Think about which is really important in praise team. But usually, maybe this one is really praise team is the whole this one, but sometimes I don't know how much you use a wind instrument, and then anyway, so there is a basic kind of pyramid for the worship teams. And you can see what instrument is, and who is what is the basic element of the worship team, right? Let's talk about vocalist. There is maybe we can go over all things, but let's start with the vocalist. But sometimes vocalists really undermine the congregation singing, try to present their musical talent, and try to present their musical singing. Once I heard where there is a worship pastor there, and then he liked to sing alone, not with the congregation. And my lead pastor gave him gave him a warning. Okay, there's a worship and there's a corporate worship, right? And then we got to sing together. And then something's happened and he resigned. Okay, let's see. And sometimes poor repertoire will eventually lead to uninterested worshipers. Think about how songs together and how you start to sing, start singing, and then if you don't organize very well, and then some people really, some congregations will lose their interest. I'm the one of them, and sometimes when they sing in the praise teams, and then sometimes they lost the lyrics, and sometimes and their melody is wrong, and their harmony is kind of awkward, and then play is too loud, and then instead I try to worship God there with the body of Christ, and then, but still my heart is really closing. And I'm not a kind of audience, at the theater, but still, I'm gonna sing together with, because if we cannot they cannot handle the song and they shouldn't sing, right? And that is one we are really. So think about how you organize the songs, how you start, how can put the congregation heart when you start, right? We already talked about it, gathering part. And imprecise vocal entrance by the worship team singers lead to lag in the congregation singing. I told you. At least they master the song, right? They need to master the song. Maybe I know they are really busy, and there's a voluntary work, and then service, and then, I know it's really appreciated, but sometimes there's a lack of practice. At least they know the melody, and they need to sing. And if they wanna harmonize, and they gotta listen to others' voice, and then we gotta know that I was high or low. But suppose where the harmonic part is supporting what? Lead vocals, right? That is undermining the congregation singing. Worship team vocalists who sing with the unique solist vocal vocal styling distract from congregation's voice. Just think about, I don't mind, usually, I don't like people who lead praise, even though, so when I was in Korea, and then usually we sing the hymns, but sometimes the pastor who's leading kind of a praise, and then sing like a soloist. I know beat-wise is okay, but sometimes little bit variation is there, so congregation doesn't bother sing together. Kind of is a little bit differences there. So that one is you gotta know it's not a soloist styles, but sing together. That's the worship is corporate. It's not a individual, right? Overusing harmony can disperse the focus, the congregation melodies. That's true. I told you, right? Overusing harmony. Sometimes maybe it's not supporting, and maybe behind is supporting, but sometimes it's like a soloist, but sound is harmony sounds is different from the melody. And then sometimes they use a mic and then they lead the song the way and what? Congregations, it's hard to sing together. So uncomfortable vocal range can fatigue the congregations. Yeah. So sometimes we need to know the vocal range. Also, if you can sing the alto, part of the song is a little low, and the soprano and mezzo soprano and soprano is there, and then sometimes for voice is like one of your voice is like alto, right? But they can mean they cannot sing a higher song. It's a higher pitch. He cannot hit a higher pitch, but just think about, and then certain levels there's a voice range is there, and then cannot hit the high, and then it's just saying, and then kind of loud and loud. It's really awkward. That is maybe vocalists should know that if you do like this, and it's undermining the congregation singing, kind of distracting and losing, kind of taking away the interest, right? How can encourage congregation singing? And when I was in Korean church, and then everybody sometimes a little different, clapping together and singing loud, right? But when I I was started attending the American church, and then my church, or Korean church, and then usually kind of praise team leading the song, and I cannot hear the many voices. Couple of voices, and it's hard to hear others' voice. And how can we? Maybe they sing, but just think about while we singing, and then everybody stand up and try to listen who is singing. I know the guy recently joined our church, and then he has a really nice voice, and then he sings always. I'm really happy to hear that. And then once, and he joined, we recommended him join the praise team, and then he played the bass guitar, and then like this, and then, but he doesn't sing. So how can you encourage the congregation singing? And so the singers should be worshipers. They are not the talented musicians, but why they lead worship, they needed to be worshipers, right? And the worship leader singers, worship singers should be musicians in their skill, and at least it depends on how much talented, and then maybe sometimes you don't have to be a professional, but still you need a basic skill set, right? And singers should have a servant attitude. I have a good voice, I can sing this way, but follow me not like this. Okay, this is a worshiping God, and then I'm serving, like a servant attitude. So it's hard for the people who are on the stage, and then sometimes try to project themselves, whether they announcement, whether they pray, whether they're singing, regardless of what they do, sometimes try to project themselves. Not really though. That's God. We learn about the whole worship, right? So remember that as a praise team singers, remember that this is worship of God, not for us, right? Now showing off my skills, my talent, and my musicalities. Singers should provide means some invitation to worship. Okay, how can you invite them? How can you give them, and they they are with, if you are a singer, how can you invite them to the worship? Just think about it. That is, anyway, as praising singers should encourage our congregational singing, right? Encourage the congregation to sing together. And there is practical issues for vocalists, and then how many vocalists, usually 4 to 8, but depends on the church size, and then just think about how many. And if you too many, it's a large group of vocal singers, and then it's really good for the worship, because if you few people is really spotlighted and then people attention their musical talent, but a lot of people sing together and the spotlight is diffused. Sometimes I don't like the kind of setting the stage, and then worship team is there and 3-4 people is there, and then as a spotlight is just on the singers. Maybe it should really focus on people, but I don't like it. Anyway, it's not a concert, right? It's a worship to God. And sometimes too many people, it's hard to lead. That's the weaknesses. But depends on church size and depends on the praise team. That's why there is some church has couple of praise teams there, and take a turn, and my church has 2, 3, and then they take turn once a month, every other week, and they take turn, and sometimes when they are available, and then they make team and come lead the praise. What about the kind of lead vocalist? Sometimes, if you are lead, and then sometimes, and then you gotta give them cue to follow, right? Congregation sometimes don't know, and then maybe if you lead, and if you repeat the chorus part or refrain part, and then you gotta kind of give them, and you gotta give them the cue. Maybe first line of the song of the chorus, and then you need to say and other things, right? That is just a really important things. And sometimes vocalists didn't give the cue, and then just think about they sing very well together, suddenly go jump all the beginning, but if we feel like we're done, and then go back, and just think about people who is singing together. Sometimes really and disorganized and kind of frustrated, and sometimes if you follow very well, and you can still keep and kind of singing and worshiping God, and you can be ready for the word, right? But you are not, and then kind of your heart is annoyed and distracted, and then it doesn't help, right? This is a really important thing. So sometimes microphone. So someone doesn't like use a microphone, someone who likes microphone, right? Just think about doesn't like people is always one step back. And who likes mic and always one step forward, right? And then singing can overpower the congregations and the praise team. So think about that's a training though. When you use the microphone hands, and if you like, maybe if you are in concert and personal concert, it's okay. But and then your voice is too loud, right? Yeah, there's decent distance with the mic, and then you can sing. That is one of the issues. Though. Maybe behind where there is a media is there, maybe they control the sound, but still. And then sometimes control the sound, and then they can hear your voice high and then loud and louder, and then what? They break the harmonies. Right? So that's kind of the issue that we gotta deal with in vocalists. And if you read chapter 5 of Shear's book, and one of the textbook, and then that's really like how can you harmonize alto and soprano, and there's a part is there. So I think it need more musical sense and musical knowledge, and so I'm not gonna talk about vocal harmonies, and then maybe one thing that I learned, I like a chorus, and I like classical music. So always there's dynamic is there, and manipulate and try to communicate with the dynamics, right? Even the voice, and then I already told you, and then if you don't listen to others' voice, and then maybe harmonizing is really bad, right? So whether you have alto or whether you have a tenor and bass and soprano, it doesn't matter. But always harmonizing is supporting the leading vocal. Right? So, listen, how to make a harmonize. You don't have to follow exactly what is the harmonizing, provide musical scales, but still, you gotta know that. And there is a guitar and piano and bass and drum, and then he already talked about the pyramids, and then how can he explained how can tune how can use bass guitars and electric guitars and pianos and then bass and then drums, and there is a keyboard, right? There is even though it's not many, it's assigned not many pages, but if you, it kind of give you basic idea, so you can study more with the directions. So I hope that you guys can have, if you are really musically talented and you are really think about musicality and then use it, right? You can read it. But I'm not a person that I can hear the music, but I don't have a kind of sense. So I'm gonna skip this one. And then the last one is training here is really important, right? When that's a band, and then as a worship team is not just personal concert, right? It's not outside. So think about inside, and just think about maybe your church is big, and then maybe 500,000 people are gathered in enough space, and then like our church's capacity is like 500, and then there's a soundproof, so all the way walls, and we can see that one. But still, sometimes, and drums too loud, right? Too loud. And sometimes bass is too loud. So I don't like a kind of I feel like my heart is manipulating by the bass. Too loud is kind of whenever bass is a strings, kind of stroke the string, and then my heart is beating together, and then I really, really, kind of irritated. That's my personal So you gotta see what's the condition of a room, size of a room, and how you play. So, and then you gotta listen to your sound, and you gotta listen to others' sound, others' voice. That is a really important thing. And sometimes people really wanna show them their skills and their musicality, and then sometimes kind of show off the skills, and then what? Just think about this band and playing together. If there is a special part, and then to do that, and it's okay. But as a praise team, always try to listen to others' voice, others playing, and play together. Right? That's an important thing. Okay, so how can you put all together? There's instrument tunings, and you know the basic knowledge of the instrument, and then I assume you already know. And then, okay, how can we prepare the worship? How can you prepare worship? Yeah, usually there is a practice time, right? And just think about both stages of worship, and gathering, word, and respond, and sending. And how many songs are you gonna, how many songs are you gonna singing, and then what is the theme of that week? And we already know that the worship leaders knows the whole, the message and the basic outlines, and then how can we pick the songs, we evaluate, and then how can we build up the whole things together, and then how can we have worship? Here is first word, and then learning the song, and play the song until you know it, and you know it inside and out. Not just musically you gotta perfectly learn, and some people are really annoyed like me. If you hit the wrong note, and then if you lose kind of what's the lyrics, and it's really annoying. Or play song until you know it inside. Just think about whole melodies and whole lyrics. And any situation, even though you kind of modulations there, and then if you pick up half note up, and still you can follow. If you half note down, and still you can follow. Right? And what does song communicate emotionally? What is the lyrics trying to deliver? And how is it connected to our Sunday service? What is the Sunday services things? And then just think about what does song communicate emotionally, right? And what is the song's musical content? Think about how they goes, and musical styles and content, and what makes a song unique. And then, so not just okay, this song is popular, I like this melody and choose and song. No, even though you like a melody, and then think about what the song try to communicate. I told you, right? Bethel Church is a praise team. And the song is like, wow, how beautiful, wow, what a beautiful. And And that is kind of when they sing in theologically and lyrically, and just think about and learning the song, right? That's the first step. Not just reading melody lines sometimes, and content, and also the emotions, and then know the styles, everything. That's the first part when you practice. So sometimes, I don't know, maybe 2-3 hours, that's why. So, when you get together, maybe you assume that everybody knows song, and okay, we're gonna play this song, and you're gonna play this song, maybe press leader, and then send out the song, people, they get together, and then sometimes they count and not enough time, and they play 2-3 times, it's okay. Any question and goes, and then that's why when they come on Sunday, and then they make a lot of mistakes. We don't assume that everybody knows song very well. And then adopt music. So just think about what is the lines and what is the styles. Okay, and are you gonna change a chord half of whole note of like this? And how can you use the music? Right? That's another thing that preparing. Another thing is that people you go practice when you practice and prepare the worship, and then arrange the song for the worship team. How can you arrange a song? Which song comes first? We already talked about it. But based on that one, how can your song goes like this? And just think about, and if you lead a song in like a roller coaster, and then up and downs, and maybe people are really lost, right? And how can you arrange the sound stage? Maybe it depends on, you don't have to be the same every time, but how can you arrange the stage? There's if you divide in 3 sections, foreground, the middle ground, and all the way background. How can you divide? And usually, and the foreground is there, and then normally some foreground is kind of melody part, is like a singers. A little bit different. This one is really foreground, the middle ground, and then background like this. And then usually foreground is normally occupied by melodies, singers. Think about you, Christine. What about the middle ground? It tends to be occupied by the guitar and piano, and for the choral prayer, and because they piano and guitar is supporting the vocals, right? And then that's the middle ground. And then well, Lucas and I, we cannot see here. There is I try to get find the diagram, but it's hard to find. I get this one, and then this is the bass and drums is the background, and bass, drum, and sustained synthesizer chords, and then background harmonies. So usually background that's a loud one, and soft volume on the foreground and middle ground. But sometimes you know how to play, and then don't have a musical sense, and then it's really loud. And once, once a month, twice a month I'm going down to, go down to Tijuana and then helping the pastors and helping the church. And then the missionary, my friend, he's always complaining about the praise team. We already talk about all this stuff. Try to show him off and then mess up. And they don't think about the side of the church and beating hard and playing hard, and then really it's hard to bear, and it's hard to bear the sounds. And then sometimes, and drum players, like sometimes, he plays too much decoration, and he doesn't need it sometimes, and too much, and then kind of distracting the whole teams like this. And then once I helped the church, like one church in Tijuana, 10 years, and then we worked together for Sunday children's ministry, and then we taught them, because they don't have, that's a Catholic background, they don't have any Sunday schools, right? They never experienced a Sunday school, and tried to teach them and help them, and then later on they need the whole thing, so we stay back and supported them. And then they organize a praise team and they practice hard. And then Louis, this side, almost this side, a little bit bigger, about this size, right? Little bit bigger. And then tiles, walls, and then no carpet. And then when beat the drum, it's really hard to stay inside. And sometimes they don't have kind of a ear to hear, they don't have ear training, and they cannot hit the right note when they sing. And while we sing the heart of worship, and then it's a totally different music coming out, right? Because there is no any training, but they have a kind of organization, but there is no any musicians, and it's really poor area, and they try to learn the chord, and they learn the kind of how to hit the beat, and try to practice together, and but they don't have basic understanding of the stage and what's an instrument, and then it's really hard. But sometimes maybe foreigners, and sometimes those who have musical sense and trained and bothered, but a lot of people are not bothered. That's interesting. And just when you're kind of tuning the sound, and then we gotta know the tonal placement. Usually humans hearing span is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, 20k hertz, and usually people are really comfortable is like communication is around 60 hertz. No, that's it, decibel, right? That one is a hertz, is kind of what is a frequency, and the hearing is like a decibel, right? And then little bit different, we cannot put together. And I try to see the coordinations, but there is some, but I don't understand it, I didn't put it in. And then usually people hearing the voice and normal communication is like a decibel is 60. And then what about if you are whispering is 40, and then if you go to a louder place outside in like 80s, and then when you go to what's a drilling part is outside drilling is 110. So when you go to really also a sound one, but it's really, I forgot. Anyway, so usually, so it's safe up to the 70 and then goes 80 above is kind of a sound is amplification, and then it's really volume is like hurt your ear. So that is basic, and but that this one is tune is like hurt is a frequency, right? Low frequency and high frequencies like this, and then we gotta know that it's a kind of human can hear the 20 to 20,000, and then usually and frequency of the speech is like little bass sound to a little bit like less than 10,000. And mean that this is really comfortable zones, right? Medium sound, and the medium sound is like 200 hertz and 2000 hertz. What about human perception is like, even though it's very big, and then just think about frequency of the speech is like this, and then usually we should play inside. What about I know there is dynamics and contrast is there, and but still, if you're too loud, and then sometimes it's really distracting worshippers. So that's why if you see that how can we comfortably listen to the music, and then worshiping God and singing God, sing a song, and then how can we put the sounds, right? That's why mixer is really important. That's the basic idea about. And here is some. I know it's really hard, but usually here is bass sound is like if you use the piano keys and middle C's here, bass and also sub bass, and then this middle C is a kind of middle range speaker with a whole this one, and there's a strings and winds and vocals. And drums is here. Think about the drum, how far can go, frequencies, all the way. Cymbals is really high frequency, right? And snares and toms and kicks. Basically, drum is like, I know start with low, but still all the way, mostly is horn and tuners, and then this is synthesizers like synthesizers like this, and then there's a whole range of the frequencies. And so we're gonna know that how each player control the sound. But there's I want to see that kind of show that what is the mid-range kind of speakers. Normally we are comfortable, and then it's too loud, and then what happens for the worship, and then maybe it gives you kind of control the sound, right? Here is kind of I tried to get the information about sound mix for the worship, and here is mic circles, and then there is a soprano vocal it's a basic keys here, middle C here, and 261, and all the way up to 41,041, and that's the range of the basic frequencies. Here is some, his suggestion is that, and then he said that set the local filter on the piccolo about 400 hertz, and with the local on the violin to around 150 hertz, because it cannot make much sound below 190 or so. So a little bit low then, because it sounds really high. I always think about the size of space and the frequencies. And he said male voice is a local filter is around 80 hertz, female is about 140 hertz. So be sure to listen to how chopping of the bottom of the spectrum sound for each instrument, right? So two bottom, and how can you chop it? How much? And then what about the electric guitars? Electric guitars kind of the low spectrum around the 80s with the high sound of about 8 to 10 kilohertz. So it's a kind of sound is really frequencies it's really high, right? Whereas the range is really big. And then so electric guitar is not like acoustic, where we wanna those really high frequency, because the guitar amplifiers is likely already generating tons of high harmonies already that we really want to get rid of, right? So there's a basic kind of tonical range that he suggests. Bass guitar is here. Bass guitar is low sound is low frequency is like 41, and then so set the low side bracket is 30 around there, and then high side is I don't know exactly what it means, but if you use a mix, and then you can do it, right? There is each mic connected is a mixers, and then you gotta control those frequencies. And there's another technical part to control the voice and whole band. And there's a drum, and there is a piano. So he suggested a different kind of how he kind of low and high the range of the tones to for the praise team. Maybe if you have any idea about that, and then I was doing the church ministry, and then I was kind of helping to the mix a little bit, but I don't know that detail. I just control the voice, and then I don't know how they set, but I control it too loud, and the voice is too loud and a little bit down, not dramatically, and then control like this. And that's my job. But anyway, there's another part of the use the kind of mixers, and how can you set the whole volumes, right? And there's another technique part for the worship. And nowadays, and then if you go to big church, and they use already big and quality of machines and technologies. Anyway, and just think about how can we lead worship? How can we prepare? How can we lead? And then try to find the sample. But here is Stephen Wilbur. It's not a long pages, but I think it's a good summary of our lectures, but not in terms of practicality, practicums, and then how he prepare, how he leads, and then gives you a basic idea about. But we talk about a lot of different stuff, and then if you think, and then if you kind of remember the basic principles, and then you can kind of apply, and you can make your own. So one thing, what I really want to talk and then just think about as a worship leader, how can you make this worship for God, not for us, right? Through the songs, through the sermon, and through the response, and through the sending. How can? And that's basically, we don't talk about how we become effective worship leaders, and then what is the kind of not efficient, effective worship leaders, and we're gonna talk about that one next week. So today is about, we talk about basic instrument, how can we tune, what's you gotta be careful, and how can you use this instrument, and then even though I don't talk about much about other instrument, so I just talk about the vocalist, and then basic worship team, and then next week, and so we kind of went over the how you kind of all put together with the kind of mixers, right? Technology to put together. So I hope that you guys have some idea about, maybe if you are not that expert about it, or maybe if you are interested, and then you can learn. Maybe there's a lot of materials out there, but maybe I don't know. So so practically we finish everything about planning and leading worship, and then next week we're gonna talk about what's the basic, how can we order basic. I'm gonna give you, I found some material, how can you order the worship, and how can you check and lead and basic kind of what's a template, and then what's the kind of dangers for worship, dangers for the worship leaders, right? And that's the next week lectures. I hope that you guys have some insight for worship planning and leading the worship. So and maybe remember one thing is that remember the basic principle, right? Why we do worship as worship, and then all right. So maybe it's really helpful for your maybe really helpful for your kind of participating in the worship team, and then anyway give you some insight, right? All right, you guys, thank you for being with me, and then God bless you, and see you next week. Bye.